Hello, you amazing people out there, and welcome to the Amazing Action Comics podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
Whoa, I'm seeing some brand new shifty headphones on there.
Yeah,
Looking
yeah.
good.
Little 50th birthday gift from my podcasting partner here, yeah, Angel. Thank you so much. I like they're like vinyl records. I can slide,
Yes.
but no,
Honestly,
these are
I hated seeing those freaking white droopy things coming out of your ears. It was
oh,
starting to affect my
oh.
soul.
You're not talking about the wax. You're talking about
Yes, the actual headphone piece. Ugh.
yeah. It happened, Angel. Don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
turn 50. I think we got like another dozen years left before that happens.
Oh shit! No, this is fucking. I got what? How many months?
I
I got less than
know.
6 months. It's gonna happen.
I
But you know
hate it.
what?
I hate
50
it,
and
Angel.
feeling like I'm 12 because I'm still loving my comics. So f
Uh,
you.
I hate 50, but I love these headphones. How about that?
All right, good. I like that too. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Amazing Action Comics podcast. This is the Indie Comic Review. This is where John and I read comics, hopefully from week to week. With the way the industry's been going, it's just all up in the air. But we pick some of our favorite indie or small publishers, small press, create our own stuff off the wall, and then give our 2 cents on it. But before that, just a couple of tidbits before we get into the books that we have for you this week. Yeah, John, why don't you just elaborate on some of the stuff that we've already started to talk about a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, so right now it really feels like it just feels like the comic industry is in the ring with Mike Tyson at any age. Just sort of just the getting hit left and right. There's the big diamond kerfuffle that's been going on. We've talked about that extensively last week, and it's kind of all over the news. Even like non comic people, like people who are casually into comics, have an awareness of what's going on.
Right.
Then there's the not to get too into the weeds on this either, because I haven't really fully researched a lot of it, but the Neil Gaiman situation, is very unsavory, to say the
Yep.
least,
Yep.
about that, and how that affects, canceling these projects of his also affects other artists that have worked with Neil, or and so that's sort of taking money out of their pocket, and innocent until proven guilty. But like, either way, in this situation, it's sort of like, separate do your best to sort of separate the work from the artist and keep some of these really good works out there,
Hmm.
and maybe not give him any, or he should say, don't give me proceeds, put all the proceeds to victims funds and things like that. Like, get in front of it as best as you can. Look, if he did it, he deserves every ramification against that. But I think aside from the victims that actually did, if this is true, that actually had this happen, uh, uh, you are also depriving people of some really good stories, and you're also depriving some creators of some income. And I think that's a tragedy that should be considered, and it's another black mark against the comic industry
Yeah.
at large, right?
Yeah.
And so now, with not to get too political, and too far out in the weeds on this one, these possible impending tariffs, are on Canada, are going to possibly affect the cost of comics. There was an article on a website that, my bigger point here is, I take issue with the structure of the article. It was a very clickbaity article where it said, this is definitely going to happen. Expect comic prices to skyrocket in light
Hmm.
of or comics set to skyrocket in light of the tariffs, or something like that. But the article itself was actually very good, very thorough, very long, and postulated mainly in the maybe, right? Might this happen? Could this happen? Now, we've already seen that one of the tariffs is now being pushed back a month because compromise was happened, and I guess talks are scheduled to happen with Canada, because the big thing with Canada is most comics are printed in Canada. And this article sort of says it's not necessarily that the publishers are going to raise prices, but retailers would have the right to raise prices to offset that tax, right? But Valiant said, look, if this happens, say goodbye to $4.99 comics from Valiant. It'd be $5.99 and up. It's possible bigger companies could absorb this, right? But now look, that's again, these haven't set in yet. And you know, I have a feeling that later this afternoon, when there's a talk between the two parties, as far as that goes, we'll get a similar situation with Mexico, and you know, someone's going to be like, "Oh, what a great deal maker I am," when the reality, the news, you know, the stock market was just all in the red this morning because of this potentiality. So again, but as far as how it entails to comics, it's just like it's another fucking blow. It's another hit of like, you know, this poor dying medium, like this print medium across the board. The New York, the Star Ledger, the Newark Star Ledger,
I know.
shut down physical, right? So it's just, you know, and this sort of like comics being an afterthought when a lot of this money that's being made came from the comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
In multimedia stuff. And then, you know, the other one the other day that I saw, I was like, oh my God, here's another blow. Here's what little jab, another little jab. The Schuster family is suing DC Warner Brothers for distribution likeness rights to Superman and things like that. And
Yep.
you know, and look, I'm sympathetic to an estate. You know, I have you know, my father, you know, I'm a legacy kind of thing like that. So like, sure, if anything came along that I was like, that doesn't represent my dad well,
Mm-hmm.
I would, you know, speak up about it. But you get to a point where, you know, some of these people had nothing to do with it, you know, and who knows how close they were with with Schuster himself and things like that. So it's always like motivations of people that always irk me, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of greedy people. A lot of people greedy, you know, and that's again with the Neil Gaiman stuff. That's sort of, I'm like, again, innocent until proven guilty. What if there's just some greedy people out there, you know? Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and I think the big picture or the future of the industry is, to me, I don't want to say at jeopardy, but I think because we aren't raising the next generation of comic readers, then that turns into the next generation of people that are not making comics in that respects as well. So where we grew up sort of like in the 80s, 90s, where you had a tremendous amount of people wanting to get into the industry, I don't know if it's like that or it's going to be like that in the next, you know, 5 to 10 years with all of this happening. Now, you know, Diamond, as far as I was reading some more stuff today, I mean, it's just a shit show of what's going on. But I think now, from what I understand, they have been looking for buyers. I think the Alliance Gaming and Diamond UK are being sold. They're in talks of being sold. And they're looking for a buyer for the U.S. market. Now, from what I'm understanding, and if the article is correct, I read, they have until April 1st, or else they're just going to liquidate, and then that's it. So it looks like April 1st, if they don't find a buyer, or by April, which could be an April Fool's kind of thing, if you think about it. If it does happen on April 1st, holy shit.
And it's Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, they've had or do have currently 92 publishers that they distribute. Now, we already spoke about DC and Marvel and Image already moving over to Lunar and Penguin, respectively. Those guys are going to be around for a while. They're not going to get hit. Even with the tariffs and stuff like that, I mean, if prices of comics go up, they're going to go up 50 cents. They've been going up since the very beginning of comics. I mean, they don't cost a dime anymore. They haven't been $1.95 or $1 in forever. But I will say, as of late, I would say probably they've taken the biggest jump over the last, decade or so than they have in the past. I mean, they were 10 cents for a while, 35 cents for a while, 25 cents for a while. But this jump from, $1.95 to $2.99, and then from $2.99, I don't think there was anything but $3.99. And then from $3.99 went to $4.99. And everything that's coming out right now that's pretty much a one-shot or a brand new issue one is $5.99. So there's already this increase in the market already, which is crazy. But the big thing about the tariffs with Canada is that most of the big publishers, and we're going to put Image under there as well, even though they're creator owned, they print their stuff in Canada because it's cheaper.
Yep.
They're set up for it as far as the run count. And then paper is cheaper to print because Canada's nothing but woods. So, but then coming across the border wasn't much of an issue. So now we get these tariffs in place, or if there's a standstill and say, hey, fuck you, we're not going to ship anything into your country now, then where do these guys get? Like, people are going to say, move the stuff to the U.S. One of the things that's really important to understand is it's going to be more expensive to print here in the U.S., and I'm pretty sure there might be printers that can run that, especially if you have newspapers and stuff like that. But it's not on newsprint anymore. It's on, heavier set paper. Whether or not there are paper companies, not paper companies, printing companies that are, able to handle the volume that Marvel and DC do. Yeah. We don't know.
Yeah. Think about how when Diamond closed Plattsburgh, their biggest warehouse, and everything was now had to sort of be backwards engineered out of a smaller warehouse. And there was a workload that they couldn't quite handle, So yeah, it's again, we'll see what'll happen. I thought it was a very fascinating article. The other thing is China, a lot of trade paperbacks are printed in China. Yep. So that has facing a 10%, tariff. But yeah, it's just, I was reminded the other day, I think it was yesterday at the shop, somebody wanted to buy a Superman 75, Death of Superman, and we had the polybagged one, right? Mm-hmm. And we opened it up just to show it was still intact and just flip it around. It was a nostalgia thing for the guy. And I noticed on the back, the cover price for the polybag Death of Superman, right? Cardstock cover, fold out. You had the fake newspaper article. You had the stickers. You had the black armband. So not just comics, but like a piece of fabric with like the bleeding edge on. $2.50.
Crazy.
$2.50 in 1993. And that book now, $9.99. That same thing, no doubt, $9.99.
Yeah. It's just listen, and Diamond closing is going to be a hit on the industry, especially for a lot of small publishers. And it's funny because I was listening to something today in regards to how much Diamond owes, and it's anywhere between $50 to $100 million. And obviously, a chunk of that is going into like the McFarlane stuff, whatever he needed for the toy section. Obviously, DC and Marvel getting their chunks of change. And it was interesting because Penguin was like, because they own IDW now, and they're like, there's no way the millions of dollars that are owed to Penguin are going to get paid by Diamond. So I think they were saying that Penguin was like, all right, you're not going to be able to pay, but you're not going to be able to profit off of it as well. So anything that comes in for IDW is coming straight to us. So they're not going to pay anything out of IDW. They're just going to keep everything that comes in for that instance, which is madness because they're not going to get their money back. But the people that get hurt the most are the smaller publishers that are owed, like, say, $5,000 or $10,000 or $30,000. They need that money. Yeah. It's not like Marvel or DC that can be like, hey, all right, you owe me $1.5 million. Sure, take your time. $30,000 to a small press. They can't do anything. They can't pay anybody. And they're already I mean, from when the book is submitted to when the book is out to when they get paid is anywhere between 6 months to a year before they see any money or return on their books being in the stores, which is insane. And now the fact that they're not going to get paid at all possibly is what's going to drive a lot of these small companies out. What I will say, though, is whatever stores do survive this, because most of them rely on the big two anyway, their shelves are going to be a lot more empty, or they're going to be more full of just either creator-owned Image, DC, or Marvel. But the time of small publishers, small press being on there, it's going to be tough. I mean, even like Dark Horse having issues. I think, from what I understand, the company that bought them is now going to merge them in with like it's called Middle Earth something,
Right.
whatever. And then you got Valiant, who's still owned by a big business. I mean, some of these guys may survive, but they're trying to create content for TV, for movies. They're not creating comic content for fans and readers. And those are two different things. And I think we're missing. Listen, I said it for a long time. We didn't have a lot of kids coming in. Comics are way too expensive for kids to get into. And if kids aren't reading comics, then these guys, your Daniel Warren Johnsons, your Dan Slotts, all these guys, once they age out, who's taking over?
Right.
Who's taking over?
Right.
Nobody. So a medium is not going to die because there's no paper. A medium is going to die because just nobody was interested in doing it anymore.
Because that's sort of the thing. It's like you kind of see this when you look through the ages of comics, is that a lot of the guys who started writing comics in the Silver Age were reading comics in the Golden Age, and then a lot of guys who are writing comics in the Bronze Age were reading comics in the Silver Age. And yeah, you're building those fans, and those fans, some of them become future creators. And I kind of just want to, because I know I was kind of bleak. I think we kind of bleak a little bit before. Just a couple of things that kind of, I just want to close this on as far as what you were saying. We need one of these like super rich, enterprising nerds to create a distribution system solely for small press indie comics. Now, how awesome would that be to have like a Diamond for the little guy? I just, if I had the money, that's what I would do. That's absolutely what I would do.
Here's the deal, right? So Diamond wants to be sold. They already have a library of small independent companies or small independent publishers. The problem is, and this is why I think they're not going to get a buyer, is who cares? It's the stores. It's direct to retail or direct to market. So I can't see anybody. And I know I kept saying Robert Kirkman, but there's no, what's the advantage of doing that? Other than they could say, okay, you know what? All these publishers that are publishing, you don't have your brand anymore. You can keep your banner and just come under Image. That would make more sense than Image trying to buy a distribution company where they already have a distribution deal with Lunar.
Yeah.
Well, so that's just getting their hands dirty in something that they don't need to.
I think, that's interesting. Like, yeah, because Image already has so many imprints, right? So many, creator curated imprints or other type imprints. And they're not the only company that does that, but they to me seem to have the most. And it would be interesting, rather than somebody creating an indie small press distribution service, but yeah, if Image had an imprint for some of these, like almost like a talent search kind of thing, along the lines of like the Event Horizon, 5 pilot issues, let's see which one can go to series, that kind of thing. I will say though, every now and then, especially over the weekend, I was reminded again of this, because you did talk about like, where are the young readers? Where are the kids that are getting excited about comics? It makes my week whenever I had this several times over the last couple days at the shop, just kids excited about comics. One kid super excited about getting the next volume of Amazing Spider-Man Epic Collection because he had the first volume, reading those early Stan Lee, Steve Ditko Spider-Man comics and being excited how he read the last one in one night and he can't wait to dive into this one. And I'm talking like 7-8 years old,
right.
His brother really excited, I think, about a Sonic the Hedgehog comic that he was going to read. It really does make it all worthwhile when you can see that delight on a child's face, when you are getting them excited about comic books and that they come back for more comic books. And I think that that's super cool. The problem is, again, these are, Disney properties, right? These are the tried and true. These are the things that are so one thing I was able to do is we have a great comic called Dynamite Monkey, which is a father and his 3 kids all made this comic together. So in the mix of all of these licensed characters that this guy was buying for his kids, that indie book went in there as well. That
Nice.
family project went in there as well. And it's stuff like that it's that light in the darkness. It's stuff like that that gives me hope. The only thing is sustainability. Keep them coming back, or if they drift away, hopefully they come back. Because again, as you know, like when you're a teenager and then you're a young adult and then you're a middle aged, other things get in the way and comics kind of have to go away. But if you could find your way back, like if these fans can find their way back, even if they lapse, I think it'll be okay. I think that this form of medium, one of the first forms of communication, pictures instead of words and pictures combined, that's never going to go anywhere.
From your lips.
Where's it gonna live? Right? Is it gonna live digitally forever? Are we still gonna have physical? Maybe the pamphlets are gonna go away and everything's gonna be original graphic novels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's just you hate to see all these little things happening, and it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, and you just see all these little slashes being put into the industry, and people are going, yeah, nothing's going to happen, until eventually it all crumbles underneath because of all these things that happened previous to it. So we'll see. I mean, you had everything was regional back in the 80s, and then Diamond came in and just swept up and said, hey, we'll do it for everybody. And they had it for a long time. And I think the problem with not having competition is you become complacent. So their systems were antiquated, their systems. So they couldn't keep up with, the turn of the century with, the internet popping. Like, how do you not have an updated system in the year 2025 and still running pretty much on DOS? It's just insane. So it's one of these things where I believe Jeppy loved comics, probably still loves them, but just something fell to the wayside along those lines. And when you don't have that, that person on your tail doing the same thing that you're doing and keeping you on your toes, she just falls to the side. And this is what happens. Yeah. So, and then you got your two major companies that were pretty much keeping you afloat, bouncing, and that's it. So we'll see. I don't think Lunar is going to step up and take on a whole bunch of more publishers. I don't think they have the means for that yet. Who knows? It'd be interesting if they actually bought out Diamond and expanded themselves out to that warehouse as well. I don't know. We'll see, because I don't even know where they're based out of. Lunar. It's East Coast, right? No, they're West Coast. They're
like Ohio or something like that.
Yeah. So they're more West, and then I think Diamond their main office is in Maryland, right, but their warehouse was in Mississippi. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, Lunar's been doing a really solid job with DC, Image, and then the smaller publishers that they picked up, like Volt, Ahoy, all these other guys. So, and even Vault announced, their new way of doing things. Now they're being distributed through Lunar, but they're also doing direct to retailer. So they're giving them some kind of benefits as well, and they're going to kind of like revamp how they launch. So there's going to be some cancellation of books, and there's going to be books that are going to go straight to OGN. They're just going to be graphic novels and stuff like that.
We've kind of already seen that with Vault. We've had a lot of issue 1s come out, and then look at Godfather of Hell. Like, where's issue 2 on that?
Yeah. It's just it sucks because there's a lot of good shit out there. So we'll see. So just hang tight, everyone. A lot of it doesn't affect you guys really right now. But you might see some changes in your comic book stores. I think the most important thing is to really visit your local comic book shop at least once a week, if not every Wednesday on New Comic Book Day. Introduce somebody to the environment. It's so part of our pop culture, especially with the big two stuff, that if they see the original content or just have some. It's funny because we just get an influx of people just on like holidays. What's going to happen to Free Comic Book Day?
Right.
That was a staple. Somebody going to take that over. That was a Diamond thing. So
we might squeeze one out this year, but who knows what the future holds.
Now that they go April 1st, we're closing outdoors.
Yeah, right.
Because
I think the last holdout, I think, was DC. DC did announce they do have a free comic book day offering, and that sort of solidifies it and takes, I guess, some of it out of Diamond's hands to actually do it because it was a Diamond event.
Right.
And then the big two just sort of capitalize on it. Like Marvel always capitalized on it by making sure a movie opened that weekend.
So, but then, all right. So, where are the books coming from? Are they coming from Lunar?
I think they would come from Lunar, and the Marvel would come from Penguin Random House. I feel like that's been the case for at least the last 1 to 2 years now with free.
So then that's it. So then Dynamite and Zenescope, these guys are not going to have any books.
If there's no Diamond and nobody else distributes them, I think that's the case. But I think as of now, Free Comic Book Day is still on the calendar for shops. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah. All right. As soon as we find out I mean, it's February, so you've got 2 months before we really find out if this April deadline is real, if somebody stepped in and they bought it, or they're just going to go to the wayside, which means we lose Previews World, we lose Previews Guide and stuff. There's a lot that goes to the wayside. It sucks, but
or look, maybe Elon Musk will get bored with government and he'll just be like, I'm going to create the best distribution service ever. I'm going to overshoot the moon. I'm going to call it Mars distribution. Let's go there.
Yeah, just don't hold your breath on that one. Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, there you go, guys. So just hang tight. Hopefully this meeting tonight, there's something good that comes out of it and there isn't a tariff placed and everything continues as is without price gouging and price increases. But we'll know. We'll know probably within the next, the comics for the most part are a couple months already in solicited wise. But yeah, you'll know one of two things. One, there'll be a pullback on comics because there would have been a lot of cancellations because people just can't afford the printing. And then two, you're going to see prices increasing really soon. So possibly. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
I do want to say, like, I guess what the one thing somebody as a reader can do, I mean, if you have a steady diet of like superhero comics or licensed character comics, give something offbeat to try, try something from a menu you normally don't eat from, right? And see how you feel about that. Even if it's not something that you like, you have helped out a creator, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of those indie creators, they do wind up doing, your licensed and superhero comics as well. So, if somebody does something, indie that you maybe didn't like, maybe 5 years later, they're doing like a Batman or Spider-Man, and that's gonna be your favorite run. You never know. And you could be like, look, I got one of their early stuff. I didn't like it, but look, now I love them.
Yep. I gave Anthropomorphic one shot and I actually liked it. So it's all good. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good idea. So for every like 2 or 3, mainstream books that you get one, indie comic. You're helping out the industry and you're helping out that creator. So we'll see. That'll be the challenge to you guys out there is to go ahead and do that. We'll see what happens.
And if you do that, let us know if you want to respond to the comments or give a like.
Yeah, all that. Let us know what you read and stuff like that in the comments, and we'll give those people a shout out. That'd be awesome. All right, cool. That's all the news that we have for you now. We're gonna hop into the reviews that we have for this week. We have 2 books from last week. I guess I'm gonna start with the first one. So this one is from. I didn't even have it on me. That's crazy, but it's here. So this is the solicitation for the book. It's called The Seasons, which is a really weird title. The only reason why I picked it up is because it's Rick Remender, and I love the old guard. So I knew it was going to be something that was going to be pleasing. Can't disappoint. All right, series premiere. Come one, come all to the amazing new big top show. So we already know we're talking about the circus. Your ringleaders, Rick Remender and Paul Azaceta, who's the artist, invite you to this fantastical double-length premiere issue, Super Plus, of their new ongoing series. A decade after the season's sisters' beloved parents disappeared, a wicked carnival arrives within town. Within its big tent is a dazzling show led by the eldritch ringleader, who offers comers all a window into their heart's every desire, provided they each leave a piece of themselves behind. Attendees arrive to enjoy the breathtaking entertainment obscured behind its canvas folds, and they leave distracted by the glint of these cursed mirrors. Now it's up to the often overlooked younger sister, Spring, to find her missing sisters and put a stop to the Faust and hold the carnival and its cursed mirrors have on its guests. but will she be able to piece her shattered family back together before it's too late to save them all? Holy crap, bro. That they give you so much in that. And you don't get all of this in the first issue, but you get a chunk of it. And I'm like, when it comes to titles of books, I'm like, there has to be a reason behind it. And I love the fact that he called this the seasons, because they are the season sisters. There's 4 of them. There's spring, fall, winter, and summer. They're just all named after the seasons. And so, yes, you pretty much get that. So in the opening, you get sort of like this Neo Cairo town. There's been no communication in or out within a couple of days of the book's opening. So people haven't heard anything coming in or coming out of this particular town. And as they're explaining that through word bubbles, you can see all these people just like laid out all over the place. Some of them have like strange looks on their face, like smiles and stuff like that, but they're not moving. And I think the only thing that was moving throughout the crowd was a dog itself. So I'm assuming whatever's going on is not affecting animals, just the people themselves. So we know that something happened in this town, and we see this carnival that's passing through, leaving the town. And then it switches over, and then we get this really awesome sequence of, it reminded me of Forrest Gump with the feather.
No, right.
As it went through, and it was sort of like the byline of the story, or the end of the story, and the beginning of the story, and the end of how it ended. And so you have the youngest of 4 sisters. I believe wasn't it Autumn? No, Autumn is the one that wrote her. It is Spring. So Spring, redheaded girl. She's a not a postmaster, but a postal courier, and she's delivering a letter to herself. And as she's trying to get this letter, you're actually being taken on a journey through the town. So you get to see the townsfolk, the people, while she's causing devastation, because the letter is always 1 inch or 1 grasp away from her getting it. And then at the very end of her making this entire mess, while you see what the entire town looks like, then you get her to sit down, open up the letter, read it, and understand that it's from her sister saying that she's in danger and there's danger coming, while the carnival itself is actually coming through town. Again, dude, I wasn't expecting a lot from this, just because when I open up, like, sometimes the art will hit you right away, and then sometimes it'll take you reading the passages to really understand what the artist was doing. And it was one of these things where I opened it up and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Not to say that the art was bad. You're just used to seeing a certain style of art, that's how your eyes are accustomed to just looking for that particular thing. And just like we were talking about, take yourself out of your comfort zone and just give it a chance. And Rick Remender, I've never been really, from Sacrificers to Old Guard, never been disappointed with any of his reading. This was not disappointing at all. And the art was perfect for it. The color palette, with it just being nice and simple, just sort of like that two-tone. So you had the flat color and sort of like the highlight for it, the simple line art, the motion in it. I think the way that the panels move from one to the other and how she moved through the pages kind of made you sort of like see this reel of her running through town, which was fantastic. So, yeah, and the fact that it was double sized allowed you to stretch that out and sort of give you the scope of where she lives, and how everyone knows each other. So it's a big town with a small town feel, because everyone knew who she was, which was funny. And she's sort of like the Bradish. We didn't get to meet the other sisters. We know that one sister wrote to her, who kind of was investigating sort of what's been going on. And we see what's going to happen, or what's left open to happen with that sister. We're not going to give away too much, but yeah, he left enough open to say what the fuck is going to go on there, and enough open with the town that Spring is in, with like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? So I don't know what you thought about it, but I think, if you're a Rick Remender fan, you're definitely going to like this book. If you're like a sort of like a horror fan, mystery fan, you're going to like this book.
I think also in a certain degree, if you're sort of like a slapstick comedy fan, you're gonna like this book as well, because this opening sequence it reminded me of a couple movies that we grew up with. Superman 3, the opening of Superman 3, where all this zany things are going on, and like people are trying, like getting caught in these things, and you kind of see Superman kind of bounce between all these things and pull the guy out of the car as it fills up with water because he drove over a fire hydrant, like all that really goofy, zany stuff. The other one that came to mind was Muppets, the Great Muppet Caper. Had a big sort of elaborate opening where I think everybody was trying to get a certain item, and then that's how you're introduced to all the characters, starring everybody and me, like all that kind of. So the way that this character is chasing after the letter, the irony that she's a postal carrier, and the one letter that gets away from her is hers, the chaos that happens in her wake, but how she also was able to correct it, like the situation of saving the guy in the cake and all that stuff. I mean, it was just, it really was, like Remender says in the back matter, sort of like storyboards for a very elaborate animated sequence, but it really holds itself and stands on its own right. Paul, as a kid, his artwork reminds me a lot of Kyle Baker, who I'm a big fan of, and there's a fluidity to it, and this really lends itself that it's the kind of book where you can read through it, but then just to go back and just watch it, or watch the action unfold, is a real visual treat, and it's just really fun on the eyes.
But so simple though, man.
Yeah,
it almost has a Wes Craig feel to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like this weird sort of alternate 1920s world, 1920, a weird alternate 1924 where like window cleaners have little rockets and and again, like she's like just the sequence where she's trying to prevent the letter from going into an oven in the bakery, and she's throwing a knife in the middle of the bakery just to close the oven door. Just all that really wacky, zany stuff. I really loved it. I thought it was great. The double sides, like you said, really helped it breathe. And then the darker undercurrent of this ringleader. I don't like clowns, and I really don't like clowns on stilts. So the setup for this is just so good. Just a visual treat. Definitely something you should just check out, pick up, and kind of, even if you don't grasp the story, just pour over the artistry. That is really the strength of this book for me.
And the other thing that I really appreciated about this was the lack of text. So a majority of the text was in the letter that was being written, and that was in the front portion and the back portion of the book. But all that action sequence, like when you can tell a story in sequential order from panel to panel using a minimum amount of text, but walking away with like the maximum amount of information, I fucking love that, because that's what this medium is about. I mean, we talk about the gutter spaces, being that time that you fill in with yourself, but it's just funny to see the letter run all the way through these different scenes, and like they didn't even need to be text, and you knew exactly what was going on from beginning to end, which was fantastic. So kudos to Rick for putting out another great book. I'm really looking forward to hopefully this continuing if nothing happens with these fucking problems. God damn it. Because it really is, it's solid. So Rick Remender, Paul Azaceta, and with Matheus Lopez probably on letters. Seasons from Image Comics.
And
check it out.
I like Sacrificers, and this is little bigger than a mini. I think it's intended to be an ongoing. However long that will be, it will be. But again, another great thing about this comic, aside from the double length and the great artwork and the pacing and all that, nice little catalog for the Giant Generator imprint in the back. A lot of really, really solid titles that come out of this imprint. Again, I think one of the great things about Image is that they have all these little imprints with these very diverse array of content to choose from. I think we're going to get a lot more stuff from them in the future. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. What do we got? We got Ripperland from Dark Horse Comics. Synopsis. So,
Yes. No,
you know
I'm
what?
going to read the synopsis.
Oh, you're reading the synopsis. Gotcha.
Yes.
Very good.
All right, and then you give your 2 cents to see
Yeah.
whether or not they match. My thing is, if the synopsis doesn't match what you read, it's going to piss me off. What I liked about the seasons one is they did match, but it gave you an insight as to what's coming and what's looming, which is great.
Yep.
All right, so here the year is 2188, and Jack the Ripper has returned to London. For the last century, a shattered post-Brexit England has operated as a massive Victorian theme park in exchange for American military and financial protection. But when an American mogul's grandson is killed in the heart of London, the delicate status quo is threatened. Is the killer a brilliant maniac, Americans taking advantage of their superior technology, or the English underground resistance wishing to throw off the yoke of American oppression and rejoin the modern world? American Special Agent Jesse Holden and local British police detective Edwin Fogg must overcome their clashing ideologies in order to find the truth in this foggy street of London, 22nd century London. I already see those two characters going at it. So go for it.
Yeah. So that is very accurate as a description. I would have done the log line. Westworld meets Jack the Ripper. You know,
okay.
like Behemoth was Godzilla meets Speed, right?
Yes.
So basically, 2188, and it's a little jarring at first when you're kind of introduced to the year early on, but you see this Victorian London surrounding. But then it gets explained to the outsider character, right? The FBI agent who has to go over and investigate the murder. And it's actually Steve Orlando is a really good writer. He's very tongue in cheek. And he does these almost fourth wall breaking moments. So like there's a point where this guy's been given this assignment, and then it's explained to him exactly what is going on in London, in England in general, because yes, post Brexit, everything but the UK decided to join the European Union. The UK had the only option was to sort of sell itself to the US to become a Victorian theme park. So there is no technology in the UK at all. There's everyone lives this Victorian life, and then Americans go to sort of run roughshod through that. And so you have the FBI agent explaining all this, and he goes, look, I know this sounds like a major information dump, and it's stuff you probably know, but you need this context in order to investigate the case. And I was like, what a brilliant way to let the audience know this is an information dump and what you need to know about this whole surrounding. That was very clever, yeah. So yeah, you basically have a reverse Jack the Ripper where one of these rich entitled Americans goes to play in this Victorian England and decides to sort of veer off the acceptable path, and then gets murdered very much in the style of Jack the Ripper, as it's noted by the London detective, the Scotland Yard detective, Fogg, Fogg, which is a little reference to H.G. Wells, Phineas Fogg. He said, no, this is exactly like the Jack the Ripper murder. This person is a copycat, right? So you have that really neat mystery element. You have the fish out of water, the American FBI agent who is, doesn't even want to fit in and try to blend into this society, but is made to wear the Victorian clothes and things like that, and is aghast and stymied by the fact that there's no modern technology. At one point, Fogg is taking notes, and he's like, "Is that a paper book with a pen? What is what?" And so the way that they're, fish out, it's very much a Lethal Weapon, the Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker, you always match the opposites together. So that's there. I think you're absolutely right, especially based on some of other work by Steve Orlando, that you are going to sort of have a very deep connection with these two protagonists, or as they investigate this murder. So I thought it was a really good mystery setup. A little bit of credit: script by Steve Orlando and John Harris Dunning, art and cover by Alessandro Oliveri. Colors by Francesca Vivaldi, letters by Fabio Amelia, editor Brett Israel, assistant editor Tara McCarran. the art style by Oliveri is very reminiscent of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Kevin O'Neill. Even a little bit of Eddie Campbell from Hell, which, another Alan Moore work that it really explores Jack the Ripper and that the theories behind that and what might have happened. Like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it's an Alan Moore work that, yes, there's a movie out there for From Hell, but it is awful compared to the actual work. So this really captures the Victorian vibe really well, at least as portrayed in two very known works of comics that exist in the Victorian era. And again, being that it is about a copycat Jack the Ripper, evoking From Hell, I think, is a really good idea creatively as far as that aesthetic and that style. Interesting mystery, very interesting setup. I think I am going to go along for the ride because at first I was a little like, oh, here we go again, 2188. But we got people living as the past. But I love this sort of amusement park aspect of what has become to London, to the UK
Right.
in this possible future.
That's an entire fucking island.
It's yeah. And it's really interesting. And I never was into the show Westworld. But I know the concept. I know the original movie, and I love that concept. I love that idea, and I'm a big Jack the Ripper nerd too. So
let me ask the question then, and this might not be answered in the comic, but so all of UK is in this Victorian age to cater to tourists from the US.
Yeah.
So is the US paying them to be actors?
Basically, yeah. It's so the way it's explained is that Scotland, Ireland, Wales, like everything surrounding England,
right,
was like, screw this, we're going to be part of the European Union, we're going back, right? So England itself had nothing, no other option but to sort of sell itself to the US. And I guess it's not really made clear whether if the UK was like, hey, this is what we'll do. We'll just live out our Victorian age for the amusement of you, or if the US was like, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you are now. I think that second alternative I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's so classic. But I might have to go back and check and see. But yeah, that is the end result. Is that it is Westworld, is Jurassic Park.
Yes.
But for people who love Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper.
See, if the book continues, what I would want in like the back end pages is just previous history on how this became.
Yeah.
The relationship between them and the US and how they got sold and what their actual like if they're getting paid. That to me is fucking more fascinating.
Yeah,
like
I think
you can take an entire country and fucking make it do what you want it to do.
I think that's the great thing about both of these books, because the characters we're introduced to are very compelling and they're very realized, and the stories are are classic enough to get into with these little flourishes and twists. But the worlds that both of these comics exist are so fascinating that I want to know more. Like, I want to know more about Neo Cairo. I want to know about, the rocket pack, the little like tin rocket pack that the window washer does, in the seasons. I want to know. I want to see, like, what was the progress? Was it just an overnight, like, okay, we're shutting off your electricity, taking your internet off, and you got to wear these scratchy wool clothes now forever?
Yeah, that's just crazy.
For the amusement of entitled rich Americans. The world building on both of these books is so solid that I would love to see if they are successes, if these narratives end, that we could get a little bit more of a history on those.
Listen, I just find it fascinating because the fact that you're able to read it and disconnect completely that the US took over an entire other country and told them they had to dress a certain way of a certain period for the rest of their lives to entertain everybody from the US is fucking fascinating.
So
that's almost happening with Canada.
I was going to say, to circle back to where we started. Yeah, like, we're almost there,
Holy shit, that's fucking fascinating.
Canada, now everybody's got to dress like Mounties and bears. Like, that's the 51st state. That's what you are.
All right, guys. Ripper Lad from Dark Horse Comics. Check it out. if you want from your local comic book shop. All right, I think that's all we have for you this week. 2 books. I think next week will be a little bit more because we have a couple weeks worth of books, especially if they come in on time this Wednesday. I know I'm really looking forward to it. It already came out because I know some comic shops already got it. We're going to get ours this week. Talio Silva. It's so funny. I watched the first episode the other day, and it's like that first episode had an intro to the intro, which was crazy. And then the animated freaking anime style opening, fucking fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to reviewing Silverhawks, and then there was a couple other books that came out.
I'm gonna counter your 80s toy and cartoon property, Silverhawks, with Power Lords.
There you go.
That's a toy I never had and a cartoon I never saw.
Neither did I. And when I saw that it was part of the freaking, what is it? The
Nacellverse.
Nacellverse.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, am I going to pick this up? But I'm probably going to pick it up and just like roll my eyes back because I vaguely remember the commercials for that.
And the ads in the back of the comic books too.
Yeah, and
Adam
there was a reason why I didn't pick up that toy.
Yeah, we'll talk about I had reasons too, and I'm going to talk about that. Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, well there you go. You already have an exciting episode to look forward to next week, kiddies. All right, cool. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast. Better yet, tell many of your friends to come and listen. We're here every Monday at 1 p.m. If you're a creator, want to be on the podcast to promote yourself and or project you have coming up, amazingactioncomics.com/podcast. We'd love to have you on. Amazingactioncomics.com to stay on everything that we've got going on in Amazing Comics. If you're looking to, bring your stuff online, we're looking for submissions as well to add on to our online library. You'll get also events and news there as well. Last but not least, and most importantly, speaking about this from week to week, support your local comic book shops. We love them. We want them to be around for a long time. So just make sure that you visit at least once a week. Bring some people along. Who knows? They may fall in love with the medium as well. John, where do you get your comics from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And exactly, we talked about it earlier. There's nothing that beats the magic of introducing somebody to the world of comic books, or reintroducing somebody to the world of comic books, or just helping people stay in the world of comic books. And that is something that we strive to do every day at The Joker's Child, whether it's new issues or back issues or trade paperback collections, or even little plastic figure representations of your favorite characters, or helping you find some new favorite characters. You can find them not only at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, but also at your local comic shop.
Well said. All right, kiddies, until next time, please be amazing, stay amazing, and read something amazing.